Welcome back. Today we're doing 7th grade math, chapter 1, lesson 2. Today we're dealing with complex fractions and unit rates. Our vocabulary today is a complex fraction. So let's go ahead and look at our notes. A complex fraction is a fraction that are in the numerator, denominator, or both. An example here would be 20 over 1/2 or 1/4 over 2. I know that looks a little weird, but that is a complex fraction. This is not a regular fraction. This is basically another unit rate or a rate in general that we're seeing here. So an example here would be, since 20 over 1/2 would be 20 divided by 1/2, is the same thing as saying 20 times 2, which is 40. And then the other side, we've got 1/4 divided by 2. Again, we would flip it, multiply it, and 1/4 divided by 2 would be 1/4 times 1/2, which would be 1/8. So going back, again, a complex fraction is a fraction that has a fraction in either the numerator or the denominator. Or both. Or both. So let's look at an example. An example here would be 1/4 over 2. This is one of the examples we just used, but let's break this down. Let's go ahead and erase our work from lesson 1. And this is 1/4 over 2. Now remember, this is just another way of saying 1/4 divided by 2. So you could actually just write it like this. And as we learned last chapter, when you divide fractions, basically what happens is the first fraction comes down. We shake that up to become multiplication, and the second one gets flipped. Now this is 2, which would be 2 over 1. Once we flip it, it'll be 1 over 2. Now when we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across, which will give me 1 times 1 is 1, and 4 times 2 is 8. So 1/4 over 2, being the same thing as saying 1/4 divided by 2, will be 1/8. Let's do another example, and let's actually pump the brakes a little bit on that one. Another example here is we have 1 over 1/2. So our example again is 1 over 1/2. Again, a fraction, even a complex fraction, is a division problem that has not been solved yet. Top number divided by the bottom number. So this is telling us, we'll change the color of our pen here, this is telling us that this is 1 divided by 1/2. And again, the whole number needs to be a fraction, so this will become 1 over 1. And when we multiply, or when we divide fractions, we shake things up. It's the 3 arrows again. This comes straight down, this gets shaken up to become multiplication, and we take the reciprocal, and this will become 2 over 1. We multiply straight across, which will give me 2 over 1, or it's another way of saying 2. So 1 over 1/2, or 1 divided by 1/2, becomes 2. And this is how we simplify complex fractions. Let's go back to our textbook. Let's do these got it's, and then let's dive deeper into the lesson here, and maybe even start doing some of the examples from the homework. So we've got 2 over 2/3. 2 over 2/3. Now I like to write it like this because it's a lot easier than seeing this, because I get real lost if I see something like this. So when I write my fraction, you'll notice me write this kind of slanted line so that I know what my numerator and my denominator are. So 2 over 2/3 is going to be the same thing as saying 2 divided by 2/3. And then again, that 2 needs to become 2/1. It needs to be a fraction. And I'm going to rewrite everything with my arrows. This will become 2/1, being brought straight down. This will become multiplication once I shake it up. And I will take the reciprocal of 2/3, which will become 3/2. We multiply straight across. Before we do that, actually, though, we can actually cross-simplify here. This 2 and this 2 can be cross-simplified to become 1 each, because 2 divided by 2 is 1, which will mean this is 3/1 or 3. If we did not cross-simplify, let's go ahead and pretend like we didn't cross-simplify here. This would now be 6/2, and then I'd have to simplify that. 6 divided by 2 would be 3. B, 6/1/3. Let's do 6/1/3. 6/1/3, and I broke my rule. Let's redo that. 6/1/3. This, again, is the same thing as saying 6 divided by 1/3, and we're going to change the colors up even more. 6 divided by 1/3. That 6 needs to be over 1. We bring down our handy dandy arrows straight down, shake it up, flip it around. This will become 6 times 3 because the 2 1s on the bottom will just cancel out and make 1. 6 times 3 will be 18. 18/1 is the same thing as saying just 18. So my answer here would be 18. All right, let's do C and D, and then we're going to look further into the lesson. 2/3 divided by 7 now. So it's 2/3/7. Same thing as saying 2/3 divided by 7, and I'm going to put 7/1 because, again, we have to deal with fractions when we're doing this. Straight down, shake it up, flip it around. And I almost flipped that around the wrong way. It is 1/7. We can check for cross simplification, which we don't have any here. So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply across. 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 7 is 21. Now, 2 and 21 have nothing in common, therefore this is simplified, and my answer will be 2/21 for this example. And 2/4/2. 2/4/2 is the same thing as saying 2/4 divided by 2, and I'm going to put that 2 directly over 1 just to make my life easy. Let's switch up colors. Straight down, shake it up, flip it around. I check for cross simplification. The 1 and the 4 have nothing in common since 1's a 1, so it's not going to. But those 2's can easily become 1's now when I divide. I multiply straight across, which will give me 1/4, or 1/4, and that is simplified. And that is my answer. All right, looking on in the lesson now, we are going to find unit rates. When the fractions of a complex fraction represent different units, you can find the unit rate. Josiah can jog 1 1/3 miles in 1/4 of an hour. Find his average speed in miles per hour. So again, what we want to do is, I'm under the impression that we want to make this 4. But let's double check. Write the complex fraction as a division problem, which we did. 1 1/3 divided by 1/4, which is what we have been doing. Write the mixed number as an improper fraction. Okay, so it would be 1 times 3, which would be 3, plus 1 is 4, 4/3. Correct. Multiply by the reciprocal of 1/4, which is what we do. And then simplify. Josiah jogs at an average speed of 5 1/3 miles per hour. Okay. So, this is going to sound a little confusing, but basically, what we've been doing over here, simplifying all of these, has been exactly this, finding the unit rates. All of what we've been doing is finding the unit rate. So when we simplified 1 over 1/2, it was 2. This is saying this person runs 1 mile per every half an hour. Okay? In order to make it an hour, I'd multiply it by 2, correct? So if I can run 1 mile in half an hour, in 1 hour, I should be able to run 2 miles. So there are going to be multiple ways to do this. Now, this one showed a weird way, which was just what we have been doing. Another way I would have done it was just multiplied it by 4, but that's exactly what we're doing with the reciprocal anyway. But again, this is going to work when we are dealing with fractions, if that makes sense. Actually, that's just going to be the answer regardless. That's how we're going to solve it regardless. So, let's do a got it problem really quick, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Mr. Ito is spreading mulch in his yard. He spreads 4 2/3 square yards in 2 hours. How many square yards can he mulch per hour? So, looking at the question, we know that if he's doing 4 2/3 square yards in 2 hours, if I want to find out how much he's doing per hour, I would just divide it by 2, correct? But look, 4 2/3 over 2. We're already dividing it by 2 by writing it as a complex fraction. We are already dividing it by 2. It's a ratio. It's saying that we're mulching this much in this much time. But we've already set it up as a division problem. Therefore, this would be 4 2/3 divided by 2. It is already set up. Now, in order to do this, we need to do the following. Whole number needs to be over 1, first of all, and then this mixed number needs to become an improper fraction. Whole number times denominator, 4 times 3 will be 12, plus the numerator, which would be 14. So this will become 14 over 3 divided by 2 over 1. Then again, this number comes down. This becomes multiplication, and this gets flipped. When I multiply straight across, but before I do that, cross simplification, 2 divided by 2 will be 1, 14 divided by 2 will be 7. This will give me 7 over 3, because 7 times 1 is 7, 3 times 1 is 3. 7 over 3 is an improper fraction. 3 will go into 7 2 times, which will be 6. Therefore, it'll be 2 1/3. And again, our answers should be in sentence statements. So we would say something like Mr. Ito can mulch 2 1/3 square yards per hour. And that would be our answer. Alright, let's do one more example here. And I think this should be it. This should give us what we need. Before we do that example, let's go over our notes really quick and make sure there's nothing else that we need to add in here. So again, we've been simplifying these as we've done these examples. An example of finding a unit rate, again, was the example that we did. The differences between these examples here and what is expected on the homework is that the homework is expecting you to give. Oh, I guess the homework is not expecting you to give. Oh, no, these aren't answers. Huh. Well, I would have expected, let me see if any of these have unit rates. Find unit rate. None of these are asking you to find the unit rate. They're all asking you to simplify. Okay. So, not sure why they're not asking for unit rates on this one. But on the homework, I guess you don't have to worry about straight sentence answers. But we're going to go ahead and do another unit rate just to be safe so you guys understand this. So, my example here would be Aubrey can walk 4.5 miles in 1.5 hours. 4.5 miles in 1.5 hours. So this is my complex fraction here. Find her average speed in miles per hour. Now, at first glance, we probably can't figure this out, right? We'd have to divide both of these by 1 and 1/2, which is fine because that's what we're going to do when we simplify it anyway. So what this again means is 4 and 1/2 divided by 1 and 1/2. That extra dot showed up for no reason. First things first, we need to make these in proper fractions. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9, so this becomes 9 over 2 divided by 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3 over 2. Arrows, 9 over 2, shake it up, times, flip it, 2 over 3. Cross simplification here. We've got 2's right here that can become 1's. And we'll use a different color. We've got a 3 and a 9. They both have 3 in common. That will become a 1, and 9 divided by 3 will be 3. So this becomes 3 over 1 times 1 over 1, which will literally be 3 over 1, which is another way of writing 3. So, in this case, my answer would not just be 3. Aubrey can walk 3 miles per hour. That would be your average speed. And that's it for our lesson, for lesson 2. Again, as always, comments, questions, concerns. You can wait for the live teaching. You can ask the questions in class. You can email me if you're not part of my class. Leave a comment, and I can get back to you as soon as possible. As always, I'm Mr. P. I'll see you guys soon.